Hallo miteinander, I'm Gish86, and this is Touhou Koukishin. Last time, we went down memory lane and sliced up so many fairies in the fairy forest that it hardly deserves the name anymore. We now have the last area of the so-called On the Hunt chapter at hand, the Genbu Ravine. We've already been here, and this is indeed the exact same map layout that we've already seen in episode 3 of our Let's Play. Now to be fair, it's not the exact same experience. For once, monster levels are set at an appropriate 23. Furthermore, Sakuya is here at a very late hour, giving the whole location a nice nocturnal flair. We've also got new graphical details, like these lilies floating by. At least I think those are lilies. I'm kind of the wrong person to ask when it comes to botany. But that's already where the differences end pretty much. As to why Ankake wanted us to play the same level twice? Well, as much as I'd really like to, I can't give you a satisfying answer to that. The Genbu Ravine is by all means a pretty good stage. Still, couldn't we have started from Star Sapphire's arena? Apparently not. As a player, you don't have much of a choice here but to go through the whole area again. Lucky for us, we have the technology of video editing. There's no reason to clone an already existing episode of this Let's Play in my opinion, so what we're going to do is, we're going to have a little warp at about a minute from now. Not immediately, mind you. A sudden unannounced jump cut would get our brains all mixed up, wouldn't it? Back in episode 3, we have actually ignored this corner of the map. Now that we get a second chance to do so, we shall take a look. There is a well-guarded treasure chest around here. Oh, and on that note, the drop table of the old Genbu Ravine has obviously been updated. What we can find here has about the same quality as what was in the fairy forest, but as we go on, the loot will improve a little bit. Therefore, we didn't spend a whole lot of time in this section of the level, even off camera. So, we should be starting to time travel right around here. Yes, directly to the entrance of the eastern caves. On our first venture to the ravine, I only talked about these as being very similar to the western caves, and that's how it is. Same types of enemies, same treasures pretty much. The wary of you may have noticed that our level went up by 1 after the cut. Now upon reaching level 30, you might expect something special to happen, but nope, it is a regular level up with the usual mild stat increases. Come to think of it, we haven't gained anything interesting from level ups for quite a while now. I think the most recent skill of ours must have been Silver Rain upon reaching level 16. It pains me a little to say this, but the rhythm at which Touhou Koukishin hands out new skills, not the most sensible I've ever seen. Not to fret though, we'll get a new and very important ability soon. Very soon. Oh, it is going to be quite something, alright. Level 31 wasn't as soon as I meant. Sorry. Whenever you're heading through the eastern caves, you don't want to miss this portion of the map. Because to the right here, within the smallest of all the nooks, waits another golden treasure chest. What does it hold for us? A Kikuichi Monji. It might be good. If not, we can sell it for 2 coins. Yes, 2. For some dim-witted reason, Renosuke pays that much for items of the highest quality. I don't get it either. No matter though, in front of us is where the paths meet up again, and we're going to cut ahead a little bit, only about half a minute, to this place. If you remember, this is the area right in front of Star Sapphire's arena. When we defeated her, Sakuya just kind of lost interest in our search for the sealed away snake beast. I can't really say why. Maybe her bladder forced her to a more civilized place. A place where it's proper for an elegant maid to empty herself. We are not to snuffle into such private matters. This time though, nothing interrupts us. No random television show barges in or something crazy like that. Just to give you an idea, the footage we skipped so far was about 8 minutes. So if you look at the video length and add that, you can tell that we've got the most massive stage at hand so far easily, beating the archives by a good chunk. Yeah, I kind of regret getting into that slightly grumpy territory again, but with all the duplicate content, or maybe mostly because of it, the return to Genbu Ravine feels like a very bloated part of the game. Can't lie. I'll tell you something here. There is something really sweet coming up in the near future. Something that makes everything you could bash or criticize about this stage totally worth it. It is one of the pinnacles of this game, and that is all I want to reveal so far. So, what can I generally tell you about the Genbu Ravine's second half? Well, it is actually fairly linear by design. Most of the treasure chambers can be easily identified with the help of the minimap. An example for this would be the side chamber we just passed, the one where we got a sterling silver dagger from. How would you even miss that one? RPGs must have been teaching us for 30 years that such aggressively obvious dead ends are always to be searched. However, there is one part of the stage that breaks from this linear character. It's a little further ahead and off the track, and it's easily overlooked due to the psychology behind it. We'll get there when the time comes. And right here was another situation where Silver Rain was the absolute worst move to use. I can't say anymore why I used it there. Maybe my finger just slipped, maybe I saw the Lancer doll too late. The Genbu Ravine is in fact fairly dark at night. If it's too dark for you, you can disable shadows in the options. It only helps so much though, as that only affects shadows of objects. If an area is just meant to be all dark and scary, you're gonna have to live with that. No matter though, we had fallen a little lower on health than usual, but we are already almost patched up again. Once we've gotten this big ribbon here, take a look at those sprinkles on the right side of the minimap. That is not your cookie residue, they are pillars to traverse the river. At first, they might seem to be the more optional route to take, but they are not. Against what your gamer's instincts may tell you, we shall go down here first and over there afterwards. Yes, this is about the slightly remote area that I hyped up a little before. The path that we are taking right now does in fact lead to one of the most important treasure groves in the whole game. You don't want to miss it. Absolutely not. It'll still take us a little bit longer until we get there. So many bad guys are in our way. Which ones, you ask? Well, the Genbu Ravine is fairly well balanced when it comes to enemy types and their variety. I can't really declare any of them to be more common than the other. And oh man, do I love using Cleaning Maid against these swinging vines. It's like it was made for them. One thing that I did notice about the enemies here is that starting at around this point of the game, most of the spitting flowers will be orange ones. Orange flowers are easily the most troublesome. They spit their seed as soon as you get too close to them, and they do so in a way that walls them off from you. It's annoying because if you don't get away from that medium distance at once, you will get hit for sure. I really have to watch my language around those flowers. I'm always very close to saying they shoot their seed. This is not that kind of video game, just so you know. Right here we are waylaid by a nasty combination of red frogs and snakes. I really recommend using a spell there. More important than that though is the red marking on the minimap. That is an entrance to a new area, and once again, the first time you get here, you might be very insecure if this is really the way you want to go. It totally is, believe me. Said entrance leads to this cave, and first things first, we're going to take a long look at it. The flowing water of the river below looks especially clear here, and the many braziers give the whole area a mysterious, almost ritualistic atmosphere. You will really like this cave too, as it holds so many treasure chests with some splendid stuff in them. If you're lucky enough, you can get spiked daggers, health prayer amulets, luminescent ribbons, which are just excellent, and Bishoujo figurines. The more of these, the merrier. And here's something else I've hinted at. Sakuya's third major spell card, Scarred Soul, Soul Sculpture. It is delicious, and we are going to see it a lot in the future, but not yet. About one of the items that I mentioned, Bishoujo figurines. That is another one of the no purpose except sale items, and it is more valuable than the ones we already know. It sells for a humongous 20,000 apiece. Would be nice if we got one, and now we do. And now we have two. Now, I know this will be anime 101 to most of you, but about what Bishoujo is supposed to mean, it literally translates to pretty girl. So I guess these figurines are supposed to be like Nendoroids or Figmas, something like that. Renosuke does seem to be the type to pay a lot of cash for those, huh? What a nerd! I really shouldn't sneer. I do in fact have such a Bishoujo figurine of Hina standing on my desk, so I really am not allowed to point any fingers here. Now I want to introduce a secret art to you. The secret art of Perpetual bunny hopping. Yeah, as you can see, the enemies in Touhou Koukishin are not as effective a roadblock as you might have thought. All the ones around here seem to have respawned for some reason, and I really didn't want to fight all of them again. As to why we have to be bunny hopping for this? It is not to make fun of Gensokyo's Earth and Moon Rabbit population, no, but because Sakuya is indeed noticeably faster while airborne. And now you know why we are jumping so much during this Let's Play, sometimes seemingly pointlessly so, even to the extent of looking childish. If that annoys you a little, I'm sorry, but sometimes you need that extra bit of speed to make it to the next group of enemies and keep that hit counter going. On that note, Remilia does not accelerate upon jumping like Sakuya does, but she has a substitute of sorts for that. A mid-air dive bomb attack that, if spammed, makes her get around places really damn fast, even faster than Sakuya. We have gotten back to where the path branched before, and now we have this set of platforms in front of us. This jumping puzzle might not look too bad at first, but don't underestimate it. The tiny platforms are pretty far apart. Aiming your jumps and making it across is not easy. Take your time and don't waste any distance. What really helps there is that Touhou Koukishin doesn't care much about momentum like many other games. You don't need a running start per se, but you still need to start steering as soon as you hit the jump button. Now I think it's been long due that we talked about the camera of Touhou Koukishin. At times, I've been giving you these panoramic shots of the landscape. Heck, the last one of those was only about a minute ago, for the river crossing. Now the really interesting thing about this subject is that the manual camera control is not a function that is native to this game. Normally, Touhou Koukishin doesn't let you manipulate the camera at all. The view is fully automated, and that's not really a problem. The automatic camera is very quick to adapt, and we are sticking to it barring the few bits of sightseeing that we are doing. What I'm really aiming to say here is, our ability to look around freely comes from a modification of sorts. Said mod is integrated into the English patch, which comes with a special launcher with all kinds of features. You can cheat with it if you want to, if it makes you feel better. There are very obvious things like invulnerability. Our first-person camera is listed under those cheats for some reasons, among other more practical things. For example, you have the ability to fix your own bugs. A known problem was or still is that bosses can get stuck and unkillable. The launcher lets you teleport them to a fixed position so that you don't have to abort the stage. As infuriating as that glitch may sound, I think it's very rare. So rare that I can only tell you this by hearsay. Nope, it's never actually happened to me. I think it might be caused if you pummel bosses too aggressively into walls, which is kind of far off from our playstyle anyway. Before we go on with that, I mentioned an item in the treasure cave called the Luminescent Ribbon. Luck wasn't on our side back then, and we didn't actually get one. If the same happens to you, here is your second chance. Luminescent ribbons are direct upgrades to the big ribbons, simply better in all categories. They even make your attack a little bit stronger, by about 10 to 15 points. So, back once more to the English patch. The launcher isn't all that it has to offer. On patching, you are able to customize some parameters to make the game either easier or harder. The settings we are using for the Let's Play aren't the opening posts of the forum threads. To sum them up quickly, the game is about twice as hard as it originally would be. And that is a pretty important matter right there. Touhou Koukishin does not normally have a difficulty selection, it's just as hard as it is. And that is not very hard at all. When I heard what other people didn't like about the game, the low difficulty came up repeatedly, more than anything really. It figures, if a game is just incurably easy, that'll really hamper the replay value. All that is of course a thing of the past now. You can make Touhou Koukishin as hard as you like, ludicrously hard if you feel so. You really have a lot of freedom there. Another good thing is, you can change the difficulty in between sessions simply by reapplying the patch. And right here, I've got to give some more praise again. English patches for Dojin games are not something you can take for granted. Not many people have the capability, time and interest to translate these games. Tripflag and his crew even went 10 steps beyond and gave us all these cool additional options. That is amazing, and it makes it one of the best English patches that I've ever seen. We have just found another spike dagger. Now, that item, let's be honest, we will likely never use. Nonetheless, it is an interesting find. It is all in all a fairly powerful weapon, but it comes at a price. Equipping a spike dagger will cut your hit points by 20%, so you'll be trading some of your defense for even more offense. Unfortunately, spike daggers are rarely more powerful than Kikuichi Monjis, and if you remember, those even give you hit points rather than taking some away. Still, if you are really confident about your survivability, you can use it. It's a good idea to at least keep the option in mind, until you get something that is better in just about every way. There is another very important item in this stage, and you can get it right here. Yes, the Amulet of Certain Victory. I don't think there is ever a different item in that chest, because honestly I can't remember a time where I didn't get one. Anyway, the Amulet of Certain Victory is kind of a novelty among accessories, as it aims to turn you much more into a warrior archetype. It gives you far less skill diamonds, skill regeneration and item drop rate, and instead improves your critical hit chance and power. Since running out of skill diamonds becomes much less of an issue as the game goes on, that can be a pretty smart trade-off. I feel like we've progressed far enough into the game now that we can risk putting it on, as long as we maybe don't use the most expensive of all the skills. We've also gotten quite far into the Genbu Ravine now, there's not too much more to go. One nice little detail about the last stretch of it is that starting at around this point, enemies may drop very high quality items, for no discernible reason, at least none that I can see. I've gotten Masamunes and pink diamonds here before. Those items can be very good. Should we not be so fortunate as to get any of them, they can still be bought at the store very soon. I believe even right after this stage is over. So yeah, there really is no need to worry about that. Down here is the last optional side path of the Genbu Ravine. There's rarely anything world-changing over here, but it won't hurt us to check. To the right, we can get another iron chest. I might have already said that at some point, but chests with golden ornaments tend to have the better stuff inside them. Iron ones though have the benefit that they may respawn under certain circumstances, for example if you leave the section and return. So many mushrooms around here, we need to do something about that pronto. Yeah, you'll really find no other enemies in this corner of the map. It's always so peculiar if a room only focuses on a single enemy type. Makes you wonder why it is like that. If this were the Forest of Magic, the mushrooms would be self-explanatory. Maybe we have discovered Marissa's secret stash, her private plantation if you want. Psst, don't tell the Heat. Or the Yama, whoever feels responsible in the mostly lawless lands of Gensokyo. Okay, let's bunny hop back on track. I really hope I'm not trying your patience too badly with this, but as you must be seeing, we are indeed much faster. About Sonic the Hedgehog in this game, there do exist speedruns of Touhou Koukishin, and they are quite impressive. It really shouldn't be much of a surprise. Any game that even remotely matters has a speedrun of it, and sometimes even when it by all means shouldn't. The world record for playing as Remilia stands at under 35 minutes, I believe. I think we are already 5 times past that. Said speedrunners avoid practically all enemies, which leaves them grotesquely underleveled. While going through the game like that certainly wouldn't be for the purposes of our Let's Play, I've got to admit, it adds a certain kind of spice to it. You can't really avoid leveling up completely, you will always get experience from the bosses, but still, upon completion of the game, those speedrunners will only be about level 21 or so, which is kind of ridiculous. Looks like we made it. The stage portion is behind us now. As always, let us skip over preparation and rush straight ahead. The build-up is pretty tense here. There's no music and I really like that. It is perfectly justified too, as the upcoming boss fight is my second favorite one in the whole game. It's really cool on its own merits, not because it's a character that I've fawned over. In fact, if anyone declares this boss as their waifu, they're objectively a little bit strange, I argue. This is the Mishaguji, the legendary snake beast that Suako Moria overcame and tamed ages ago. It's a funny coincidence that we already fought this in my previous Let's Play of Tenjo no Tempest, only it is much more independent now. It also doesn't look like the frog lady is around to put a leash on it, so this is bound to get ugly. The most important advice I can give you here is to rely on ranged skills. You can hit the Mishaguji with melee attacks, but only whenever it decides to lunge for you. There is no reason why we should have the boss decide on the pacing of this fight, so let us sneak our knife throws in between whenever we can. This hail of bullets may be its most dangerous attack. Another very tricky one is when it shoots a stream of bullets, in combination with erratic, jagged rock missiles. The stalagmites that follow you around also shouldn't be underestimated. The first one of them always bursts out of the ground without warning, so you need to be on your guard. The mouth beam though, that is so much more bark than bite. It looks like there's a lot of force behind it, but even if you do get hit by it, it doesn't even do a whole lot, only about 40 points of damage or so. And that is about all that the Mishaguji has at its disposal. All in all, this fight is awesome, and I'm pretty sure that's plain to see. It's got that David against Goliath nature to it that puts it on such a grand scale. Many 3D action games have similar encounters, some of them possibly more refined than this. Doesn't matter, fighting the Mishaguji is still heaps of fun. You know which one I'm most strongly reminded of? Belial from Diablo 3. Yeah, you've got a crescent-shaped arena, a huge enemy towering from the abyss, and the fight is a lot about reaction and positioning. Like they always say, the bigger they are, the harder they fall. As intimidating as the Mishaguji may seem, it's not too tough to handle. You'll get used to its patterns fairly quickly. So much for my second favorite boss of the game. Get hyped for my very favorite one, because I know I am. I'm Gesh86, this was Touhou Koukishin, and next time we're going to the Unhealth Spa. Bis bald!